speak from my own seat this morning. First, I want to take the time out to big up Miss Lisa Blair from Mount Salem. She won the JHTA Employee of the Year. Clap her too, man. She's not going to give it good. Clap her, man. Clap her, man. Yeah, Miss Blair organizes my football competitions for me in Mount Salem. She's very dedicated and hardworking, and no wonder she has been given this award as Jamaica Hotel and Tourism Association Employee of the Year. Mr. President, I'm from Mount Salem, Montego Bay. My mother was a housekeeper at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel for several years. My uncle is still a chef at Iberia Star. He was a chef for Half Moon. My uncle is a chef at the Holiday Inn. My road manager, Rowan Brown, tough man, is a butler in the tourism industry. So as you can see, Mr. President, tourism is the #1 industry in Montego Bay, and Montego Bay is the tourism capital of Jamaica, which makes it even more important that I stand here today to discuss with you the future of the people we love so much. Mr. President, my mother is a very hardworking woman. She goes to work at 6 in the morning, comes home at 7 at night. As a housekeeper, sometimes she tells me she's given 10 rooms to clean a day, 15 rooms, it depends. When she comes home, she's very tired. Sometimes I have to end up rubbing her feet, making her a cup of tea, and try to rehabilitate her to go to work the following day. When I sent a congratulation message to Lisa, she responded and said, "Oh, thank you, my son." So that warmed my heart. I'm not only here representing my mother, I'm here representing all the mothers who work in the tourism industry. And not only the mothers, the fathers as well. But my father does not work in the industry. Mr. President, my mother did not have pension while she was working. But she was a very smart woman who knew that she would retire and needed some assistance. So she invested in me. So I here represent my mother's pension. So not many people who work in the industry are as clever and as hardworking as my mother or Lisa from Mount Salem. But they too deserve a long-term income path, a long-term income plan, an investment so that when they are not working, they too can cover their expenses. Mr. President, the people of Mount Salem has held up academics in this country. The people of Mount Salem are now holding up the tourism employment in this country. But the people of Mount Salem are still being suppressed by a zone of special operation instituted by this government. People of Mount Salem demands freedom. Freedom. Now, to the pension bill. Fundamentally, what we're looking at here is how do we address the income of the most valuable people who work in the most valuable industry in this country. The most valuable people who work in the most valuable industry in this country. Jamaica is a service-based industry. More than 75% of our GDP is service-based. And tourism provides the most important aspect of Jamaica's tourism. Now, fundamentally, when you think about it, most people in the tourism industry earn minimum wage, $8,000 per week. That adds up to, what, 8 4s, 32 per month. And from this, they have to pay their rent, they have to pay electricity bill. As for me, my mother had to send me to university. They have so much expenses coming from this. When you take out 3% of the 32,000, or you take out 5% of the 32,000, per annum, this adds up to somewhere around 12,000 per annum. Now, after 40 years, the 12,000 would add up to somewhere around $400,000 to $500,000. Now, this is the amount that you have put in the pension fund over time. Now, we are promising each person $200,000 per year. So if we're looking at it, and if your money is supposed to grow at a particular interest rate, let's put it at 5% per annum, then the person would have accumulated in that savings a little over $1 million over that 40 years. Now, if you're giving them $200,000 per year, it means therefore that the monies that they have saved in the coffers would only be for 5 years. Which brings us to the important question of how is this pension fund is going to be managed, because it's very important. I heard of a story of a man who paid his pension for more than 30 years, and when he went to collect after retirement, he's only receiving $1. Oh God, what a wicked pension plan. I heard of another person who paid his pension for more than 30 years, and when he went to collect, only $300 per month. Jamaican dollars, not US. Yes, the IRA that Dan speaks about, they are receiving $300. Now, we understand the type of economy that we live in. We want a lot of output. We want hard work, especially from my mother, from my uncle, from my cousins. But we are not willing to compensate them. Mr. President, we have to think carefully about how we compensate these people who work in this industry. Now, important to me is the pension fund, and I must commend the government, I must commend Senator Crawford, I must commend Comrade Wickham McNeil, and I must also commend the government for the hard work that they have put into creating this pension plan. But it will require more work. Yesterday, we had a meeting with the Juta drivers, J. Cal and Maxi, and I posed the question, how many of you, there are more than 45 of them in the room, and I posed the question, how many of you have a pension plan? And only 4 showed me their hands. Only 4, which is less than 10%. So what we are realizing is that the industry now demands this pension product. The tourism industry demands this pension product. But we have to be careful as to how it is administered, how the product is delivered, and how the product is rolled over so that these people can benefit. If we think about what they're earning close to minimum wage, many of them. If we think about what we extract from their pay plus what their employers contribute, then it won't be enough. Or we will have to have a rapidly growing pension fund that is increasing in its value over the 40-year period. I mean, you will invest our pension in the UK. So when I get my salary, you pays a portion, I pay a portion, they buy pounds and they send it to the UK. So my pension is hardback. Hardback. But I would want to see the same type of hardback pension for these tourism workers in Jamaica. Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, the people of Montego Bay are counting on me to represent them well. My mother is counting on me to represent her well. As you can see how I'm dressed, my mother dressed me this morning. She sent me here to deliver her views, and that is what I am here to do. That is what I am here to do. I know sometimes politicians don't like the truth, but the truth shall sprinkle upon you like morning dew upon fresh roses in the morning. Like morning dew upon fresh roses in the morning. Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, after speaking with the JCAL and Juta workers I went to the craft market. And then again in the craft market, the people once more face severe challenges in the industry. The rent has been increased by 50% for their shops. Because of the zone of special operation and the state of emergency, they have been losing business. And their income, Mr. President, has been dwindling while their expenses have remained the same. Now, if we do care about these workers, the craft workers, the vendors that we speak about, how come are we increasing their salary by 50%, not their salary? How come are we increasing their rent by 50%? How come we are increasing their rent by, where do they fit in this pension plan? We have to find a reasonable place for them. Mr. President, we have been doing so much in Parliament. We have been playing so much politics with Jamaican people, but it is time now for us to infuse sensible economic in our political agenda. It is very important that we infuse sensible economics in our political agenda. When your brain work, your face sweat. When your brain work, your face sweat. It's important. I too, I've been an employee in the industry, Mr. President. When I was a young boy, on Friday evenings, we would wait for Mr. Fitzy, the crabman, to come home to pack his bag of crabs, get his sticks, to go and do crab racing at the hotels. As young boys, he would select from us who would come on which Friday. I could not wait for my Friday to come. When we visited these hotels, we were greeted with a warm welcoming smile, the same thing that greets the tourists. We were greeted with a crab industry. So Crabman Fitzy and his employees, are they covered under the pension plan? No. Mr. Speaker? No. Mr. President, are they covered under the pension plan? So there are a host of spillovers that are associated with the hotel industry, which we must have a fundamental understanding of, if it is the case that we wish to serve these people to the best. We know we're addressing pension today, but we cannot address pension without addressing income. We cannot address pension without addressing expenditure. We cannot address pension without looking at the circumstances under which these people live. I complained to my mother, why do we live in the ghetto? Why do we live here when you work there? When I go visit my mother at work, I receive such lovely treatment. I sleep in the best hotel rooms, eat the best food. But when we go back home, we're not suffering. But the circumstances were not enough for her to pay pension. The circumstances were not enough for her to send me to school and have a decent savings. The circumstances were not enough for her to be comfortable while she was employed. That is why she realized that, General, after Andre done school, me done work. No, she work. No, America she there. She was so prolific. She got so many trophies from Briggs Carlton. She's in America now. So many trophies.
Excellence is in your bloodline.
Yeah, excellence. Mount Salem is a place of excellence. Mount Salem is a place of excellence. My mother is excellent. Lisa is excellent. So many excellent people. But yeah, man, Mount Salem, West Central St. James, and Montego Bay. Places of excellence. But what we don't want this pension plan to turn out to be a magic trick, Mr. President. We don't want the government to come here and promise people 200,000 with no clear path of how they are going to earn it. We need the pension plan to be rigid. And as Don quite rightly mentioned, Senator Webley, we need trustees who are dependable, capable, accountable, and who understand pension funds and honesty. That is why we are wary when you mention if you want politicians to be a part of the trustees, because politicians' fingers have been so sticky. Some of them. Politicians and the fingers too sticky. Some of you Some of you. No. No. We cannot speak about the tourism industry as being decent work if it does not provide decent pay. In order for Jamaica to continue to fully benefit from the tourism industry, tourism workers must continue to benefit from the tourism industry. In order for Jamaica to benefit from the tourism industry, tourism workers must continue to benefit from the industry. Senator Webley spoke about the pension. He spoke about how we want the trustees to operate and the different skills and expertise that they must possess. And this is very important, Mr. President, if it is the case that we want this pension fund to become successful. Now, as time progresses, you realize that more and more people travel to Jamaica. More and more people spend more money in Jamaica. We talk about roughly 400,000 people being employed in the industry. We talk about earning over $3.2 billion from the industry, which means that each of these workers, if you were to break it down into an earner per worker percentage, like how we have GDP per capita, let us look at tourism earnings per employed person, then we are talking about each person is earning for the country more than $5 million per year. So it beats me. It beats me. Why? If we look at the amount, the value added that these tourism workers are contributing to the industry, how comes they're underpaid? Overworked and underpaid is the cry of the tourism workers in Montego Bay. Yes. Lack of care and concern, low housing requirement. What are we doing about housing for these people? We have to take it very serious because, Mr. President, I decided to join politics because I realized the importance of an understanding of economics to the administering of political policies. Fresh mind, new ideas is the slogan that we bring. And it is important because if we look at the country and if we look at the industries that we target, tourism is an important industry. But what do? We target the owners of the businesses. So what we do, we provide concessionary to them. We provide subsidies to them. But they are just one part of the puzzle. The workers, the domestic workers, and I want us to really look at it as well. I want to raise the motion that we look at the percentage of foreign managers who manage the tourism industry. I want to move a motion that we look at the percentage of foreign managers in our hotels. That's right. And we look at how best we can infuse this or bridge a gap between them and domestic managers. I know we are capable. I know that Jamaicans have the capability of being excellent hotel and tourism managers, but we are marginalized because of government policy. Montego Bay people are marginalized because of government policy. We have to think carefully about the decisions that we make.
Entertainment coordinator from foreign? No.
Can you imagine?
Absolutely.
The workers are the backbone of this industry. The workers should therefore be given the privilege to be comfortable in their existence. The workers should be compensated enough so that they feel comfortable going to work on a daily basis. Now, my mother could not have sent me to school without gratuity. The basic salary that she received could only cover her taxi fare to go to work and back. It was the gratuity that bought my suits. It's the gratuity that bought my Clarks. It was the gratuity that bought my school books, bought my plane ticket so I could travel to America and visit my cousins. It was the gratuity that afforded me a university education, Mr. President. So my question to the government is, why is this gratuity taxed? It don't affect you. It don't affect no one. Oh, no, collect tax out of people, them gratuity. Look, me have one less shirt. My mother buy one less pound of orange a market. My mother buy one less. Listen, man. We want to move a motion for us to remove a pension. Or remove. We want to move a motion to remove the tax from gratuity. Fresh mind. New ideas. We can carry next week? Every day may I carry it. Remove the tax from gratuity. And it is important. It is important. No, they earn below the threshold. So the threshold does not.
We have to look at how we can treat with that gratuity.
It's just wickedness. Wickedness from politicians like you. Wickedness. Wickedness. The people from Montego Bay expect me to represent them, and that is what I am here to do. Represent them. Represent them. So, remember, Mr. President, pension represents a long-term investment. I teach money management classes, so it's important that we listen to this part. No interruptions. Now, when you receive your income, you either consume a portion or you save a portion. Now, these savings come in a variety of ways. These savings, you can save it by yourself in the bank. You can put it in a pension fund. You can open an investment account with Sagicor, JMMB, or whichever the case may be, or even First Global. Now, you do this because you want to smooth your income over time and your consumption over time. Now, you can imagine if we pay pension and the pension ends up mismanaged, then all our lifetime investment will lose value. So it is important now, we do not want this pension fund to get in the hands of licky politicians. We want this pension fund to be properly monitored and managed by experts. We want this pension to be properly managed by experts. My mother had to migrate in order to get a decent income. She could not survive in the domestic tourism industry. Most workers in the domestic tourism industry have the wish to migrate to offer their services. Now, I have been to hotels all over the world, from China to England, to Portugal, to the United States, all to Brazil. I've been to hotels all over the world. And the best service I receive is at a hotel in Jamaica. The best people work in the hotels in Jamaica. But when I check the salary levels of the people who work in the hotel in Brazil, and I check the salary levels of the people who work in the hotel in the United States, that's why my mother gone over there. And I check the salary level of the people who work in China, the worst paid are those in Jamaica. How do we provide the best service but we receive the worst pay?
And earn the most for the industry.
Each person is contributing more than $5 million to what the country receives. That's worker per capita, earnings per worker. They too must receive some improved compensation. They too must be given a chance to earn what we call a decent income, because all these are tabled out in the bill. You want to get decent work. We cannot have decent work without decent pay. We cannot have a decent pension without decent compensation. We cannot have a decent pension without decent compensation. So, Mr. President, the important points I want us to take away from my presentation. 1. Mount Salem, West Central St. James forms excellence for Montego Bay, while Montego Bay creates excellence for Jamaica, and we expect that the people will be respected and compensated in due order. The pension fund must be inclusive. So the Juta workers, the people from the arcade, crabman who brought us as children to crab racing, must also, my good friend Skinny, and I must mention Skinny because Skinny is now selling food to tourism workers. Skinny sell the fish and the conch to locals, and when the tourists come and bring out the lobster, the crab legs, because they too contribute. So the inclusiveness is important. We do not want these people to be excluded. We want the pension fund to be properly managed. We want it to be hard-backed, like the pension from the University of the West Indies. And 4, we want us to think about how we deal with these people in terms of the income they receive, removing tax from the gratuity, and making sure that because we benefit from them so much, because the government gets so much props from the work they do, they must be compensated accordingly. Not only in the short run, but in the long run.